First of all, I confess to being an artist, so I'm going to be talking about cognition, but using art as the basis of those sorts of ideas. So my interest is in art and how we think creatively. Now I just wanted to, because we're coming to the end of the day, I just thought it'd be nice to point out, particularly since I'm going to be talking about metaphor, the kinds of things that have been talked about during the day, some of the things I've come across. So metaphors of journeys and windows onto information, and attributes like unknown, unforeseeable, risk, autonomy, ambiguity, emotions, the need for emotions in the sort of discussion, collaborations, the idea of things being experiential, things that are in the moment, that you can touch, and the idea of collaboration, of free collaboration of ideas. And there's been a number of interventions being suggested. The first keynote was this idea of a kind of dynamic dialogue, that you're reacting to the other person in the moment. Sam Elkington was talking about planning for the unplanned, and also there was, Alistair raised the idea of needing to be a destructive task to create space for creativity. So I just wanted to sort of put some of those ideas out, because what I'm going to be looking at is the cognitive functions that go on behind those ideas. And just as a starting point, since risk-taking has been spoken about, I would say artists are inherently risk-takers. They embark on things with no sense of where they're going, and are surprised along that journey. And it's just interesting, very, very pleasing to see today that you have musicians transferring to business and other spheres. So those skills are showing that they do transfer successfully across. So that was, I thought, very reassuring. So I'm going to talk about how new meaning is generated, and the cognitive mechanisms, and then I'm going to show some of the thinking processes I've been involved with in a collaborative art project with musicians, to just sort of tie that together. And there's two terms I've put in here: out of placeness, which is metaphor, and I will explain all these things as I go along, and overlookedness, things that are on the periphery or things that you have missed in some way or another. And I will suggest that they are metonymic and synecdochic, and I'll explain those terms. But those ideas of out of placeness and overlookedness is something that's been cropping up throughout the day in different scenarios. So I'm going to just quickly define those three things: metaphor, metonymy, and synecdoche. But I'm going to define them on my definitions that I've evolved through my research, and in relation to a particular article by a Japanese linguist, Kenichi Seto, who has put some fairly radical ideas out there in the field of cognitive linguistics. And a number of people are starting to look at his ideas and see value in it. So I will talk from that particular position. What you'll find is my definitions, you won't find them in the dictionaries. The dictionary definitions of metonymy and synecdoche are still language-based rather than about cognition, about how we think. So the general dictionaries are really quite a long way back in the past still. So first of all, the idea of metaphor. It's something that you're all familiar with. And so this is just a simple example from Louise Bourgeois. She's taken the idea of spider and put it with the title Maman, and by putting together those two disparate ideas, she has opened up a new set of meaning and potential understandings of what mother might be. So that's an example of how metaphor functions. You bring two very different things together, you find some commonality between them, and that gives you an insight into the less familiar idea. You see it in poetry, you're more familiar with it in poetry maybe. Ideas like the road was a ribbon of moonlight. That idea of a ribbon starts to create a visual image, a feminine image, these sorts of things. So we are more comfortable with it in language maybe than visual art. Okay, so metonymy. Now instead of being, as metaphor is working with disparate domains, disparate ideas coming together, metonymic thinking works within a single domain of knowledge. Now, domain, of course, is a metaphor in its own right, but what it means basically is an idea that you construct, that you feel that things are all interrelated. So it's not a fixed thing, but it's a sense of a particular idea that you can see connections between. So metonymy, according to my definitions and Kenichi Seto's, is about part-whole relations. So the classic film ploy of marching feet for army is a standard example of metonymy. Now the Cornelia Parker piece, you may or may not be familiar with her work. She's a sculptor. This is a piece that is very much dependent on its title. So it's the connection of the title, the negative of whispers, earplugs made from the fluff gathered in the Whispering Gallery of St Paul's Cathedral. So what she's done, she's taken a peripheral element, something overlooked that's gathered over time, and foregrounded that, and then fashioned them into earplugs so that you've got this connection between blocking out the whispers and its history and the generations of intrigue or whatever goes on in the Whispering Gallery. And if you've not been in the Whispering Gallery, it is a magical place because you can turn your face to the wall, whisper, and your voice is heard as if you're sitting next to the person who's really a speck on the other side of the dome. So a very simple visual image, but really quite a complex idea coming out of it. And that's an example of a metonymic approach. So she's taken a peripheral element, ignored the central, and expanded meaning in that way. Okay. Now, this is a non-art example of how I define synecdoche, which is a term you may have heard a film title of it. It's an awkward word, but it's about category relations and how meaning is released by those sorts of connections. So if you take any object that it has multiples, so I've taken the butter bean and look at it, you name it in your head, butter bean, it's food, and you really don't take a great deal of notice. However, if you put together 25 butter beans, line them up side by side, your eye starts moving back and forth, and you're making comparisons. And what starts to happen is that you start to see differences between them. And those differences become foregrounded in your mind and raise questions. And the kinds of questions that might come into your mind are that these beings look a little fetal, or a bit like ovaries, and therefore you've expanded the idea of being to a wider category of start of life. So that's what I'm saying synecdoche does. It takes categories, and by putting visually or perceptually things together, things that you can be seeing together, it opens up new meanings or expands the ideas. So just, I'll just recap. So metaphor, disparate things come together, similarities help you understand the more abstract idea of the two. Metonymy, same domain, expanding ideas from a peripheral element and foregrounding it. and Synecdoche category relations, things that are conventionally considered a category, like beans, or anything you can imagine, and how you perceive those and how it releases meaning in quantity. Okay, so I've been working on a collaborative project with a classical musician, Helen Thomas, and electroacoustic composer, Michael Bearart, on an exhibition. I'm a visual artist, and we've embarked on something with a common interest in metaphor and metonymy, and not really quite knowing where our journey is going to take us. The show opens next month. Work is still evolving, and it probably will continue to. But our starting point was the geological metaphor of knowledge revealed in things like deep in thought, buried memories, scratching the surface, all those sort of terms we use to try and expand our understanding of what knowledge is as an abstract idea. So turning that abstract notion of knowledge into a tangible object. So we've started looking at things that related to those sorts of metaphors. Knowledge metaphors are not only just geological, there's also light metaphors, kept in the dark, see what you mean, shed light on that. These are all metaphors we use on a daily basis without even really thinking about it. So we were trying to, if you like, interrogate those ideas. So the top image is a geological core sample from an ice core sample, but I've inserted reference to music into it, which is visible close up. The middle one is an image of a strip light, which I've used a scanner to photograph, and it shows the electrical pulse. And the bottom one is a literal core sample of a set of Encyclopedia Britannica, so a repository of knowledge. We looked at a number of images that connected across the music that the classical musician was looking at. The kind of the avant-garde scores seem to have very similar visual references to geological diagrams, and they had language connections as well. So terms like sedimentation can come up in music as much as it can in geology. We then brought our ideas together in terms of words, and we just, these are my keywords. So just a list of keywords from each of us as a way of sort of locating ourselves, and then starting to look at different things. So core samples, coral, I was looking at coral. I then was looking at knowledge again in books, and I started to do terrible things to books. So here, this is a book of poetry, just rearranging the text, if you like, and playing the idea of a tangled plot and those sorts of things. Then I set to on these encyclopedias. They cost on eBay £15 a set these days. The poor people that bought them originally paid over £400. The internet has made them absolutely redundant. So that redundancy is what's attracted me to them. So what I've been doing with these Encyclopedia Britannica is taking a physical core sample section right the way through them. And that has the effect of unbinding them, freeing them up. They're no longer held in alphabetical order. You can move things around, you can make connections that you wouldn't have made before because they were bound by their position in the alphabet. And obviously I'm also interested in how they look and whether they are interesting tactile images as well. So this is just a small section, and that's a close-up. Again, here you see fragments of words, and it's surprising how you can start to read even with just fragments of words. So, Helen, as the oboist, has been working in parallel with her keywords and working with Michael Bayard and putting these keywords and fragments from the oboe playing into what a software called Max. And those fragments are being connected through the keyboard of the computer so that every lowercase and uppercase letter of the alphabet connects with a sound fragment from a spoken word or a musical word, musical sound, that's intonation of a word. It looks complicated, but I'll play you a little bit in a minute if I can. In fact, if I can, just do that now. So, goodness. Don't know how I've done that. Typical, isn't it? Don't know how to get back to it. I just want to play the.
Just go to close.
Close on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then back.
The red button. Just close it.
Close that. Okay, brilliant. And then I just want to play. I'll just play a fragment of it. Because we had no idea what the music would sound like. And what's happened is that the oboist is actually not playing the instrument. She's just clicking the keys a lot of the time. And the software, she's in real time. Sorry, I'm not getting this. She's just pressing the keys on the oboe, and then she's a foot pedal that records the fragment and then plays it back and dissipates it. So there's layers building up as she plays. So this is just the first rehearsal. So obviously nothing like she plays normally as a classical musician. So a completely unexpected sound as far as she was concerned. She had no idea that she would come up with something like that. And it's changing her way of working now as a result. So it's having quite profound effects on her. And sorry, I'm just going to... So what we've done is we've gone into this journey with absolutely no concept of where we're heading, and things have just emerged and we've responded to them as they've emerged. But we've been motivated, if you like, by seeing how metaphor connects ideas, disparate ideas, and how metonymic close relations reveal new meanings. And these are just a couple of studies here that were bringing disparate objects together, coral, and folded pages from a book. So yes, the purpose to create an environment where unforeseeable possibilities can emerge.